Just trying to warm up. Don't know how it's going. I'm only using Payne's Grey. And I'm just experimenting with colour and how the paint moves on the page. I think I ruined it. That's okay. This is just an experiment. I do like the colour. So it looked much better when it was just the single in the middle, but that was fun. That was good. So I have to let that dry. So what I will do is try and find my miniature paper. Ta-da! I found it. And I'm going to paint using those same colours. I like that colour. And the same brush. I think if I do that, I'm kind of experimenting a little bit. This is just a cutting board. Looks nice though. I like the shape. And I'm just taping it up so I've got a border. So I used this colour before and I liked it. Like those were my earlier experiments, which are kind of, I like how it's a theme. This one's my favorite, I think, because it's so simple in design. And this one is like looking through the forest and the trees, and that one's like all of like, yeah, this one's like super far away. This is a bit closer, and this is in the forest, so it's kind of like a set. I think that's pretty cool. But I want to experiment with that color a little bit more, mainly because it has a very wintry feel. I don't find it's a depressing color at all. I think it's a really, it's got so many layers and so much depth. It's really, really lovely to work with. So it's a nice kind of experiment. And the nice thing about painting so small is that you don't have to keep all of your experiments. I find that's very freeing in that way. Another example is like the same night I did 2 others. These are those ones there. And I felt like they didn't work. They weren't kind of the right composition or something like that. And that's okay. I'm not going to push it because I actually spent a lot of time on this one. But it didn't work out how I wanted, but that's okay. That is part of learning. So let's get some of that light colour down. This is a really nice way to paint clouds. I like dropping in the shadows after and then keeping some of those softer edges. So I just rinsed off my brush and I'm going to soften some edges out a little bit more. That was good. Makes a little bit more realistic, but I'm not a super realistic painter. I don't like super realistic paintings. I could just take a photo. So I just want the suggestion of a lot of cloud and different textures. That's pretty cool. I do like that. It's kind of a cloud texture. That works really well. I quite like it. So I'll swap over to my trusty 00 brush. I pretty much use only these 2 brushes, which is a dagger brush from Rosemary and Co. And this is literally 00. That's what it says, 00. So it's quite small. So my goal today was to record more of my miniature watercolor course. And I have the little plan on what to say, but I just felt like painting today. I didn't feel like having the structure. So this is plan B. So I'm using Winsor and Newton colours. They're the professional colours. And I'm using Payne's Grey. And I like Payne's Grey. It's a great colour to work with, but it's not my favourite because indigo is my favourite. And I thought that's interesting because it's made up of exactly the same pigments, which are PBK6, PB19 and PB15. But I love indigo so much more, and I think it's because there is more of the PB15 pigment in it, and so it throws more of a blue than the black, whereas Payne's grey, I think, like throws more of the grey kind of colour, which is fine because that works as well, but it's just personal preference, isn't it? Personal preference. Oh, hello. We have lots watching on Facebook. I haven't done a Facebook live stream for quite a while. I'm not 100% sure how exactly it works because there's no comments. So if you're commenting, I'm sorry. I can't see it. I don't know where it is. But hello and welcome. Painting a little, it's not really little, it's massive, especially if you're standing beside a tree. Let's see. Oops, sorry. There's in another tree here. So the paper underneath, it's fairly dry. Like there's not a lot of water content in the paper fibers anymore, so whenever I lay down paint, it kind of stays where I've put it. And that's the good thing, that watercolor, the name watercolor, water is your main medium. So if you've got a lot of water on your page and in your brush, it's going to spread out the pigment powders a lot more than if you have a small amount of water in there. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Okay. For me, that tree is a little bit too bitsy. So I'm going to go in with a damp brush and I'm going to just amalgamate some of the branches and the leaves a little bit more, just so there's a little bit more cohesion there. So I'm in a little bit of a painting frenzy because I've just been accepted into the Melbourne Makers and Shakers Market, which I'm a bit excited about because I've been wanting to go to Melbourne for quite a long time. But just because of the schedule as well, I've got a lot of things that I need to paint before I get there. Because I don't do prints of my work, I only ever do original paintings. I kind of wonder if I've, overstretched myself with the number of originals that I was planning to have. So the next few months are going to be busy, 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 painting, which I do not mind at all. But I just need to be prepared for that busy time and have everything ready. So if you are in Melbourne in April, you follow my work, I'd love to say hello. Okay, I'm going to be quite selective with some of these and not make it as detailed as I used to. I used to be quite, what's the word? I used to spend a lot of time trying to put in a lot of details into these small works. And since doing that, like some of them definitely work composition wise, but I've realized that I kind of like the more simplistic ones a lot better. if the balance in them is right in the first place. So that's kind of like, I guess, artistic practice as well. The more you practice, the more you get to know what you like and what you don't like. And for me, it's definitely less is more. That is cute. Very cute. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Yeah, that works really well. I quite like it. Very nice. Hard to see. Probably need to get a different kind of lighting, but the gold, it really sparkles. It's quite nice. That's very cute. All right. Let's do something different. So that's dried nicely now. That, quite like it. I had a girl that I drew, and I want to paint her face. Paint her face. There we go. So I'm going to do a little bit of a portrait. So I'm going to use, this is a 00, and this one is a 0, but the point on the 00 is heaps better. The 0 I've used for nearly 15 years, so it's got no point on it anymore, but I like using it for the faces. It's just familiar territory for me. So I'm going to get some water, and I'm going to get PV19. That's kind of like my base for the skin colors, which is the PV19, which is a violet base, I guess. And I'm just going to make that very watery. And then into that, I'm going to add, it depends on the skin tone that you're going for. So darker skin tones, I would add something like a burnt sienna or something like that, or a raw sienna, and a bit of purple. But I might go with a little bit of raw sienna. Greetings from Belgium. Hello, Belgium. The best chocolate in the world. So I'm going to start off with a very light wash. Just go all over her face. It's going to be quite subtle, but I'm going to build the layers on it as best as possible. I think I drew this girl just watching TV one evening, and try and get all my sketches done while watching TV. That way I have a few ready to go just to experiment. This is definitely the first layer, or the base layer. Kind of sets the tone for the whole painting. So I've experimented with a couple of different skin styles. One is where we paint wet into wet, so the paper is wet and then you drop in wet paint. and that way you get these lovely bleeds. So I might do a little bit of that now. So I just put in a tiny bit on her cheeks just to redden those up of the PV19. And then I'm going to go in again very slightly with around the eyes, just to drop in some shadow. I'm going to rinse off my brush and dry off a lot of the water that I picked up and just smooth out that extra paint that I put on there. And this is where watercolor is kind of like an exercise in patience. Like I see a lot of people have like hair dryers to speed up the process of like drying each layer, and that's good, that's fine, but I kind of like how the layers force you to slow down and wait for it to dry, which I think is a good thing. I'm just going to get some more of the PV19, wipe the excess off, and then try and blend that in a little bit. So I'm trying to build kind of contour, I guess, on her cheek area. Make it feel believable that it's rounded. And bridge of the nose. Good. So because that layer underneath has already started to dry a little bit, I'm already getting some definition. I'm just going to soften that line just with a fairly dry brush. So we've got the colour, but you can't see the transition. Which is always a good thing. I think it depends on what your style is, what you're after when you're doing it as well. Filling in the lips just with another layer of colour, getting the definition there. So I'm just like using the same mix of skin tone that I just mixed up before. So that was with the PV19 and I think it was burnt sienna that I put in. Now, if I wanted to make a darker skin tone, I would add a purple, like a PV23 into that, which is, when I say the numbers, like I'm saying the numbers because it doesn't matter what brand of watercolor you buy, they use pigment powder to make that watercolor. So if I just tell you the name, it's just going to be the name specific to this brand, which might not be helpful because you might not get that brand in your country. You might. Pretty popular brand. Now I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to add quite a layer of shadow. And then rinsing the brush off and then trying to soften that line if possible, which is good. Try and get the contour a bit better. It's lovely. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of a darker colour now. So I'm using that same mix that I made. I'm just going to put in the tiniest little bit of, well, it wasn't tiny, that ended up being quite a lot. Well, I'm just going to have to mix some more, aren't I? So put that in there. That will lighten that tone quite a bit. Good. A bit more of the PV. Good. Okay. The number of the colour doesn't stick. I know. This is, so I'm using Winsor and Newton, so that the name of the colour will change depending on what brand. So I'm using Permanent Rose, that's one colour, and Raw Sienna, and what was the other one? Is it Winsor Violet? It is. So those are the colour names for Winsor and Newton, the professional set. Those are the colour names. So for this little dark, like the skin colour, I use the same, just 3 colours so far. I've used Permanent Rose and what is it? Raw Sienna, and then just then I mixed in a tiny bit of the Winsor Violet. So it's just kind of slowly building up shadows, building up features of interest. So my idea is that the light is being hit from this side, and so not much on this side of her face will be in shadow, just selected parts. You'll notice with the darker colour I'm not blending it as much, I'm leaving the harsher lines, and I think that's good because it kind of creates the contrast a bit more of like the shadow lines. You know how sometimes you can have quite a dark shadow, and I think that works quite well. But again, like all of this is experimentation too, and finding what works and what you like too. Like something might work but you might not like it. I think it's important to also take that into consideration. So I just got some clean water and I'm just trying to scrub out some hard lines that came with the layer before it, just so there's like softer transitions a little bit more. It kind of happened when I put the colour on the mouth, and that's okay. I just rinsed off my brush, cleaned it off, and I'm doing the same thing again. So with the shadows, I kind of want a mixture of sharp lines and soft edges. I think that helps to make it a little bit more believable when it comes to like a light casting shadow on the face. I'm just darkening up some areas. I've added, okay, that didn't work. My color, my Winsor violet or the PV23 must be very, like the humidity here is quite high, and so the pans don't dry out very well. So what has happened is I have got like a big glug of purple in my mix, and it's completely changed it. So I'm gonna have to mix up like the skin color again, and then slowly add in the color again. And by the color I mean the purple, because that's my dark shade. That's a little bit better. I'm going to swap brushes actually. So remember earlier I said that this is, I've had this for about 15 years, so the point, I'm not sure if you're able to see it, the point on this one, it's non-existent anymore because I've used it so much, whereas the point on this one is still lovely and sharp. So I want that sharp point because I'm going to start going into some finer details now, like the eyelids, and just putting them in. The paper has still got water lodged in it, so there is some bleeding of the paint that is happening. I'm going to get this brush again, it's clean and it doesn't have much water in it. I'm just going to feather that out as much as I can, just so it's not this obvious line. Just putting the darker areas. Painting faces is one of the fun stuff, like for me. Now, landscapes, I can paint them so very easily that they're not a challenge, whereas I find these faces so much more of a challenge, and I really enjoy that. That's why I keep coming back to them, even though they're not anatomically perfect and I'm not the greatest face painter in the world. I don't mind. I thoroughly enjoy the process of doing it. It's such an interesting process. I don't always get it right. Like, you can have a look back at some of the sketchbook tours I've done. Like, some of them are just hilarious, really. Like something out of a cartoon comic or something like that. But I think that's part of the fun too. And seeing how far I've come in regards to painting faces. When I first painted them, they were, yeah, very, very different in the way they looked. And over the years, they've just kind of developed into this kind of face that that's pretty much all I do now. But it's part of the progression and the learning, and that's kind of the fun too. Having that outlet. I think it's so important just to do stuff for the sake of doing it because it's fun. I think we get very caught up in doing something for a purpose instead of just doing something because we enjoy it. So just do something you enjoy and enjoy the process. She looks quite grumpy. Let's see if we can make her look less grumpy by turning up the, yeah, that's a bit better. Just a slight turn at the either end of her lips just changed her expression. It's quite cool. I liked it. I'm still using the purple, like I'm going in with the purple. Just darkening up some areas and going over areas that I've already done. So I'm going to have to correct that because now her eyes are uneven because I accidentally painted over where the reflection light should be. So I'll have to go in with that it's hard to lift because I really want that very distinct white. So I'll have to go over that with a white gel pen once it's dry. And then all will be better. It's a bit wonky at the moment. They're different. I'm going to have to make them even somehow. Yeah, definitely hasn't turned out how I planned. The eyes are woefully uneven and I don't know if I can fix them at this current stage of the game. Might be able to soften it a bit. See how it goes. So watercolors definitely have a point where you've gone too far. I've got to be careful not to do that. I'm getting very close. I think I've already gone too far, to be honest. So I'm going to free it up a little bit by doing something a little drastic. So these are purples, like purple tones in her face, and I am going to counteract and make a complement of the purple with the orange. How am I going to do? Which way am I going to make this work? I might go orange background. And I'm going to add a bit of, this is scarlet. No, I'm going to put some of the, that's better. Just to have that intensity there. I really like seeing brush strokes, which is harder to get in watercolor than it is, say, in oils or acrylics, where you can really kind of load up the paint and just have those strokes be very apparent. But I'm kind of learning just by trying to get the intensity and color in one brush load and then pulling it over the top and having that patchiness. I like that effect quite a lot. Just being a little bit more random with your called dry brush technique. It's not exactly working color wise like it's, so I might get some of that purple and just really intense. Yeah, now that's working. Again, I want to have that scratchy look and feel. That actually worked out better than I could have planned it. I like that. That's cute. Like that intensity. I'm going to make this side darker in keeping with the face. I'm trying to keep some of the brush strokes. Cool. That looks cool. That. Now, I think it needs a bit of gold. A bit of gold. So, I'm going to put a little bit down here on her shirt. But I'm a big fan of big earrings. So she's going to get some big gold earrings. And I'll finish her eyes. So it's 1, 2. That looks cool. Good. 1, 2. Yeah. Alright. Let's go in and let's finish off her eyes. Gel pen, trusty gel pen. So we go here and put that highlight back in. That's made it a little bit more even, but now I need to, and I might do a little bit of a light green for her eyes. So I've got sap green Winsor and Newton, and sap green is PG36 and PY110, which is PG is obviously pigment green and PY is pigment yellow. So green and yellow make a lighter green. I like the dry brush strokes. Yeah, me too. I think that really works. I think I paint a lot of my girls with these dry brush strokes. I think it works well. So I'm darkening, I guess, the right side of her eyes, just with a little bit more green, just to give them a bit of variation. She's looking a little bit, what's the word? Starstruck or wonderstruck. She looks more worried than anything, actually. Well, look at that. That's from when the water gets splashed on. But I don't mind those textures. I quite like them. I know some people try to avoid them like the plague, but I like them. So I'm just adding some highlights where I feel like the light would hit. That kind of ruined it a little bit. Yeah, it did. That's all right. And I might go over so I did have, let's see if it's in here somewhere. Can't find it. I had it like a graph pen that I used to use. Good morning from West Virginia. Love this. Thank you. Western. Good morning. That means we are in a completely different time zones, because here it is afternoon or late afternoon. Yeah. So she's looking quite starstruck or scared. But things like this aren't a failure, because I learn a lot from them, and I'm getting like the muscle memory and like how much water to have in the brush and how much of the paint to have in the brush and things like that. You can see here, like if we compare it to some of the other girls, where's the other girls? They have like similar looks but just different expressions, and some of them work really, really well and others don't. Like an example of this, like you can see a little bit more of the dry brush, and I definitely have like a red orange, a thing for red orange. I love the combination, and I'm just trying a lot of different experiments like backgrounds and things like that to find a combination that I like as much as the red orange. And I've got like a very dark green that I use as well, and I just really love that combination. So I'm just trying to experiment. See, here was another one, and she's actually quite similar in just playing and trying to experiment. I might go revisit her and probably put in more definition now that she's completely dry, and see how she goes. But I think this is the important thing about a sketchbook practice, is that it's never going to be the way you want it. I mean, this page, in my opinion, it's a train wreck. Like, it's just terrible. It's got no definition. It's like a lot of practice, but I think that's important to have, because it's play and it's like getting to know your materials a little bit better. Also in Belgium is morning. It's morning everywhere. Yeah, so there was that experiment. So I'm going to let her dry. So what have I done today? Yeah, I quite liked this one. That was a good warm-up. but I'm kind of over that now. So I'm going to just do one more little thing. And like I said, I'm known for my landscapes, but these are the most tedious for me to do. Not tedious, because I do enjoy doing them. I do like them. But they're not challenging. That's a good way to put it. They don't challenge me technically. But maybe if I changed my landscapes and I did different ones, then maybe I'll be challenged technically. Who knows? Who knows? What's that there? Like the cauliflower bloom. Yeah, I think it definitely has a place. Like, I definitely know that some artists hate it when the watercolor blooms in that way, but I think it can be used effectively, and I think that's kind of celebrating watercolor a little bit as well. I'm all for control. I love like seeing how people can control watercolor really, really well, because I think that as well is a skill, but at the same time, it's such a clever paint medium that not to use some of its features is a shame, really, because I think it does have some really good features. So earlier I had kind of like, because I was using the Payne's grey and it had that kind of gloomy feel about them. It's funny, like this one's, it's the same color, but I use the gold instead of the silver, like metallic paint, and it has such a different feel. Yeah, the silver metallic definitely has more of a wintry feel than the gold, absolutely. That is for sure. There's a little mark on there now. I'll try and get that off. So I think I'll be sticking with silver if I'm using the Payne's grey. Now, oh, actually, before I do that, this one had a mark where it went over the tape. So I'm going to use my eradicator brush like that. I have a sketchbook like this from Balhom. It's cheaper, but still very... Yeah, Balhom is great. They have very good paper. I've used it a couple of times, and I don't find that they're like, I don't think it's a problem at all. Like, it's just a different type of paper than probably some of the more quote unquote famous papers like Arches and Fabriano. It's just a different texture, a different color, because obviously they've got different processes, but it's still 100% cotton. And some of their sketchbooks and their paper, I've used Balhom a number of times. I don't use it for my professional work because I kind of got really used to Fabriano and the texture of the paper and how it presents, and I really liked that. This sketchbook, where is it? Where did I put it? This, I think, is also another, I'm not sure if it's Chinese or if it's Japanese. It's called Potentate? Potentate, I'm not sure. I think it's Japanese, I'm not sure. So someone in Japan, can you like check for me? And this has been wonderful. Like, it wasn't very expensive. I think it was only about $15, which for a 300 GSM sketchbook paper pad is incredible. Like, it's wonderful. And I only got this last month, so I'm really pleased with how far, like, I'm nearly finished it. I've got a couple of other things, you know, that I'd like to colour in. Definitely some of the abstracts I've drawn. A lot of abstracts in here that I'd like to colour in. But I have not finished a sketchbook in a month, in a long, long time. So I'm very pleased with this. I'm very happy with that. Clearly, because I've used it like crazy. Okay, that didn't quite work as well as I wanted it, but at least it's got the darkness out of the shape a little bit more. So what I'm going to do now is I feel the need for something a little bit more pink. I'm not a pink person, but no, maybe it's just working with the permanent rose a little more. So I'm going to go with Potter's Pink. I'm not a big fan of Potter's Pink normally because it's quite grainy and I'm not a massive fan of the texture. But it definitely works well. So it's already starting to granulate. It does make amazing clouds though because of that granulation. Lovely. So I'm going to get some PV19 or what's it called? Permanent Rose. I'm dropping that in just to accentuate some of those shapes. And I've rinsed off the brush and I'm just going to go in with a clean, damp brush and just soften some of those edges and give more definition to those clouds, which works out quite well. And then back with permanent. This one's quite a quick one. I can feel that it's not going to take me very long because I'm kind of at the end of, how long have I been going? About an hour. That's almost like my limit these days. I kind of lose the creative spark within about an hour, and I think that's okay because if you're consistent anyway, then that's quite good. So, like I said before, I have a miniature painting watercolor course where I'm going through all of my materials, how to set up, what to do, how I do it. But I'm a very intuitive painter, and so I want that to come across because I think everyone's got that intuition hidden there. It's just finding a way to explain how to unlock it. So tomorrow I will work on that video series. I have already recorded the abstract series about it. So yeah, it's funny, it's taken an hour kind of to get into the flow, to just knock one of these out quickly, and I really do feel it's the muscle memory. It's getting to know the brush and the paints and that again. It happens every session. It's practice. It's practice, practice, practice. That is 99% of all everything. Practice, practice, practice. So just a clean brush again, and I'm picking up areas of paint. I've had a couple of people say that I should paint a lot larger. And that means it'll be a lot freer, my strokes. It's true. You're probably right. But I really enjoy the miniatures. I really love them. And it's definitely something that I can take wherever I go. I just wrote an article in Australia we have the Walker's Journal, and it's essentially about different hiking trails around Australia. So I wrote an article about painting while hiking, and as you know, if you're hiking especially more than one day, you have to, in Australia, some of the national parks, especially where I'm from in Tasmania, you have to carry everything in and out. So your waste, your rubbish, everything, whatever you take in comes out on your back. So you don't have a lot of room for things that are not necessary. So I wrote a little article on painting while hiking because I paint everywhere. Most of the time I don't record painting outside because it's just too much mucking around. I can't be bothered. But it's where a lot of these mountain scenes come from. It comes from the walks and the hikes and all of those beautiful mountain scenes. But in that article I was talking about, I have a very tiny wood travel palette, which I seem to have misplaced, so I hope I didn't leave it anywhere, because I was looking for it the other day and I couldn't find it. So I'm going to have to really search through my stuff. And it's one of those really tiny ones that's kind of magnetic. And that was great because it was so small. And then these little things are so tiny that I could paint while I was hiking, and it did not take up any room or weight whatsoever, and it gave me so much joy to actually paint while I was there what I could see, and that was nice. That was really nice. Okay, that's okay. I'm not loving it, I'll be honest, but I'll put some silver on it and that might help. But I'm kind of, yeah, I'm getting a little bit bored of painting right now, so and that's how I think I know it's been a good session, where I've kind of like experimented with a few things. Most haven't worked out, which is completely fine. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to put, so you can't see this, and I can, to be honest, I can barely see it as well. But this is silver glitter going over parts of the sky, and it's only visible in some light. So when the mini is turned at certain angles is only when you can see it. And I really love that. I like that little secret part of the painting that not many people will get to see. I think that's kind of beautiful, that not everything needs to be on show and on display on this day of put your whole life and everything on social media. I like having little quiet moments that only some people know about. Yeah, so I like that. So I think that's the end of the painting session. Let's see, can we get that off in one big, yeah, look at that. That is satisfying when it peels away like that. Yeah, it's going to be hard to see, but hopefully. No, can't see it. Very good. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, everyone. That was really lovely. Well, I had a good time. And we will see you again for another live at some point in the future. Goodbye and happy painting.